Hello viewers, this is a very basic program on Node.js. The main agenda of this program is to show you that what are the minimum files you need and why you need those files. So, I have created one folder. Let's assume that this particular folder is blank. So, get into the folder with the help of cmd because you need to fire certain commands. And prior before firing the command, I would expect that you've already installed the Node application in your system. And you have just assumed that this particular folder is completely blank. You don't have these files because as you execute the command, these files will be created within this particular folder. So the very first command which you need to fire is called npm init. The sole purpose of firing this command is to create the file called package.json. Once this particular command is fired, it will ask you some question which are very simple. Just follow the basic question and give the answer. The couple of points which is very important is that through package.json you are going to set which would be your first startup JavaScript file. Like for my application, I have created server.js as a first file to start with. Along with that, inside the package.json you will be setting up the dependencies which will be implemented in your system for development of the application. And as you can see over here, I have implemented nodemon, and even I have written the step how to implement the nodemon package. Now you will be installing this particular package nodemon because every time you make some changes in your server.js file, you have to shut down your node server again. You have to restart it. So in order to avoid those problems, you will be installing this particular package so that it gets started. I mean, the node server will start automatically. After the package.json file get created, another file will be also created that is called package-log.json, which will show you the URL where from the dependency had been downloaded and what are the version of the dependencies that has been downloaded. Now these two files are very essential because when you will be downloading some external packages, all those packages will be installed within the folder called node module. And at the end of you will find the node module folder has gained a lot of memory space. So when you will be uploading your node application in the cloud, you are not supposed to upload the node module folder. Rather, in the cloud, you will just activate this particular command called npm install, and what this command will be doing is that it will go and check your package.json file and whatever dependencies are there, all those dependencies, all those packages will be installed automatically in the cloud. So even though you are not uploading the folder node module, still the node module will be created in the cloud. Okay, so now let's start with the very first file, that is the server.js with which your package.json is going to start with. So the content of the file is as follow. The very first line, if you see, it will remind you with the Angular import statement where we used to import our reference to a particular class. Same thing we are doing it in case of Node. Here we are making use of require function, and this particular methodology is what known as common JS module specification, through which you are basically encapsulating or giving a call to the class which has got its own functionality, and this thing is actually been represented in Angular in the form of import statement. So what is there inside this particular argument? This is the current working directory where your server.js file is there, and within that I have a folder called model as you can see over here, and within the model I have a file called person. If you click this, you will get to see. So what is there inside the person? Let's go and check it out. I've created one class by the name called person, and within that I have a constructor. The constructor is going to have two parameters that will initialize respective class member variables. Along with that, I have got a method called welcome. Apart from this, the most important thing which you should remember is that whenever you create a file that is of extension .js, by default a module object will be associated with that particular file, and within that module object you will have a property called export. The relevant of this particular property is that whatever resources you are creating in this particular file will be exported so that some other file like server.js will be able to access the resources available over here. So to make it global, you need to implement this particular statement. So server.js is now creating a reference variable which will be invoking your constructor, and you are going to pass these to static value which will be initializing these two member variables. And then I'm creating a variable called port in order to access the node server port. When you will be uploading your project in the cloud, it will be accessing the port as per availability. So that's the reason you have to write this. But when you are working at the development sector, then you will be using the port 3000. Since you want to have a client-server architecture so that you can make use of the HTML page, that's the reason you have given a call to the HTTP module over here. Remember, in this particular project, I'm not making use of express.js, which is your web server. And once we make use of the express.js in the next video onward, which I will be doing it, over there you will find the HTTP will be giving us, or express.js will be giving us different HTTP requests like get, post, port, delete. So currently I will be just using the module HTTP, and that will be invoking a server, and it will give a call to an anonymous function in the form of request and response. But this particular piece of code only will be executed when the request will be generated from the browser. Until then, this particular segment will not be executed. Rather, the server will be activating its particular method, and this particular port will be initialized, and this particular statement will be shown in the DOS command prompt. So let's go and activate this particular file, and right now I'm in the current folder of my node application, and I will write node-mong. This is the one which I have already added as a dependency, and the name of the file is server.js, which I will be writing it, and I will hit the enter and will wait for the node server to get activated, and it will go through the line by line, and it will activate, and it will be firing this particular function. And as you can see, the server is running at the port 3000. This particular line has been executed very smoothly. Just because I didn't call the browser, that's the reason this particular statement is not yet functional. So what I will do is that I will now go to the browser, and I will activate the localhost port 3000, and then I will send a request in the form of default statement, and then I will find a response that will be generated from the server to the client in the form of this particular statement. Along with that, a JSON response will be sent to the console, and this particular method will be activated. And what is there in the method welcome? So let's go and check it out. This particular statement is there, and which will be displaying the value which I have passed right over here. These two arguments were already been sent, so the respective variable will be displayed. Keep it in mind, I am executing the string literal, so backtick has been made used over here. So let's go and activate my browser, and here it is. I will type localhost 3000 as I do that, and you can see the first page response has been transferred from my node to the front end. And not only that, I will also find a response sent to my command prompt in the form of, okay, that response is not yet available, and I hope that the response should have been over here. Okay, maybe just because my internet is not available over here, let me do one thing. Let me switch on my internet first. Due to some reason, maybe due to that, this thing has not yet activated, and I believe, let me start the application once again. So localhost 3000, and the response should have been over here by now, and it is not available. Okay, so I need to disconnect myself. Oh yeah, it's already over here. See, I have sent the response number of times, so there was some way the application was a little bit halt, the reason the response was not coming. So the response came in tandem, all the response came in tandem. So these were the response that were being sent in the form of stringify. So that's how this particular function got invoked, and that's how the result had been sent back to my command prompt. And in fact, my web page is also displaying the output. So this is a very simple program where I have shown you how to make use of a very node basic file structure which you need to implement whenever you have to work with a node application. In my next video, I will making use of the web server, that is express.js, and I will make use of different HTTP requests. Until then, have a nice time. Thank you so much.